Ah, hello. I'm Thal Smith, and I figured I'd talk about the failure of the Netflix live action Cowboy Bebop. I mean, it's not really a surprise what happens with the way it was promoted, with the fact that they're trying to give a live action adaptation of Cowboy Bebop. But the thing that really boggles my mind is why? Why make a live action Cowboy Bebop? It's there's no point to it. If you want a live action Cowboy Bebop, it's already been done to perfection long before this shitty Netflix adaptation. And I am not joking, I'm serious. In the early 2000s, you had the equivalent of a live action Cowboy Bebop, though they were smart about it and they didn't just like rip off Cowboy Bebop. It was its own thing that just is influenced in the same sort of sci-fi western, basically. And that is, of course, one you should at least know. You better know this. And if you don't know, stop watching this video and go watch this show right now. I'm dead serious. It is a masterpiece. It should be talked all the time. It is, of course, Firefly. Firefly is your live action Cowboy Bebop. And it is just as much a masterpiece as Cowboy Bebop is, but for totally different reasons. Their approach is totally different, their direction's totally different, but they're both perfect in their own way. That's how you do a Cowboy Bebop right. You know, the same sort of principal concepts, but there's that. But of course, there's another series very similar to that is incredibly unknown and very underrated. Series I need to really rewatch and do a review on some point, and that is of course Star Hunter. Star Hunter actually has a story about bounty hunters chasing after criminals, all that sort of jazz. So this literally has a lot of the story beats, even more so than Firefly in terms of Cowboy Bebop. Then it even has some of that sort of Western feel because they're bounty hunters and they're chasing criminals and all that jazz. In fact, yeah, yeah, it's I just I don't understand why you would do a live action Cowboy Bebop when it's already been done and so much better. The Firefly is just oh, all right. I should try and do like a quick summary of these two shows for you. So Firefly is just this great show about this guy just trying to keep his ship afloat and stay away from the equivalent of a essentially a straight up monopolized sort of what would be the term for it? Sort of like a monopolized space tyranny kind of thing. The Alliance is trying to avoid that while just trying to keep his ship afloat by doing any job he can find. He's essentially a sort of trader. Yeah, he trades goods, legal or illegal. Just any job he can do to keep his ship afloat, you go and do it. As long as it's within reason. And he cares about his crew, takes care of his crew. It's so beautifully done because all the characters like Malcolm Reynolds and the cat um, uh, the other characters like the guy that flies the ship. I'm totally zoning out their name. I'm bad at remembering names. But the mechanic, it's a great show, very underrated show. Um, yeah, and as for the Star Hunter, it really is about them, going out chasing bounty hunters, chasing, they're bounty hunters chasing criminals. I can't express enough how baffled I am at this. If they want a live action Cowboy Bebop, there it is. They're the best, closest thing to anything like Cowboy Bebop. But the smart thing was they weren't just trying to rip off Cowboy Bebop, because if they did try to rip off Cowboy Bebop, it would have sucked, like the Netflix adaptation. I mean, it's kind of the one thing I will say though is with Star Hunter. Star Hunter had the same sort of fate like the original BSG. So you had the first season, this season, the real season, which was fantastically done and well built up, and then it was basically tragically canceled and taken over by the studio, and they reshaped into another series, gave it like Star Hunter 2022 or something like that, whatever it was, 2022 or something. I don't remember the date, but yeah, that's a bummer. Just look for the original Star Hunter, not the 2022 one. It's kind of like the same thing with like I said, BSG and the original BSG, and then like BSG 1980 or whatever it was. So yeah, yeah. That's all I got to say on that. Like, I just don't understand why nobody just went. We already have live action Cowboy Bebop. And they already showed how to do it right. Create your own solid characters, with their own solid stories, with their own solid world that happens to be influenced by in a sci-fi western style. And there's so much you can do with it that there's always something fresh or original you can make out of that. Even anime understands that. There wasn't just Cowboy Bebop that came out around that time that was brilliant as a space western. There was Trigun as well, which is just as equally brilliant, but for a totally different reason. So yeah, basically, put it bluntly, Firefly and Star Hunter are like they're basically the Trigun and Cowboy Bebop of live action sci-fi, space western sci-fi television that happened in early 2000s before they were martyred, and then everything got replaced by that fuckery, the BSG reboot. I know some of you may like the BSG reboot, but the BSG reboot is a plague to space-oriented sci-fi. Like every fucking space-oriented sci-fi show ever since the BSG reboot has been a ripoff of the BSG reboot again and again and again and again. So you can understand why I don't like the BSG reboot. Yeah. Anyways, I've rambled on enough. See you later. Bye. Goodbye.